for being here today.
Excited to be here.
I want to tell you all about Shelley Brown very quickly. She is a distinguished, and I say distinguished, dental hygienist, influencer, speaker, educator. She serves as adjunct faculty at the Utah College of Dental Hygiene. She's the CEO of Homebound Smiles, LLC. So we have this connection. We've both provided mobile care to our vulnerable older adults and others. She has a strong background in dental education and industry leadership. She is also COO of Hygiene Educators and leads Shelley.Dental, a platform dedicated to advancing dentistry. She was the co-founder of Hygiene Edge, and that platform had 100,000 subscribers and over 25 million video views, making a significant impact in the dental hygiene community. She holds a degree in instructional design. She's committed to innovation and growth in all aspects of the dental industry, including education, community health, private practice, digital marketing, consulting, and sales. And so today she's going to talk to you today about why you should be testing in office, and she'll talk specifically about the Clear Confirm test. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rowling. It is lovely to be here with you this day. So I work, as she mentioned, with a high-risk population who is medically compromised, and especially for aspiration pneumonia. So when I got my first mobile unit, because I mainly go into nursing home and homebound settings, I was like, I got to test this thing. And now, when we know better, we do better, right? At the time, I tested. And I probably should have just gotten new lines, but I tested and treated and shocked since it was a new to me unit. But when I tested, I failed. And I used this Clear Confirm test, and it went clear. And I do not want it to go clear. That means I have a lot of biofilm. I had a lot of biofilm in this unit. So I tested and I treated again. And now I do a weekly maintenance that is recommended by my manufacturer, which is a mixture of bleach and water. So I want to show you this test because you might be thinking, how is this test? Like, what are these tests? I want to know a little bit about them. And so that's my job with you today. So I'm going to show you this video here momentarily, but let me just tell you what's going to happen. There are captions on there in case you can't hear it. There's just a lot of music mostly on it. But what they're going to do is they're going to take a sample of water, and they're going to suction it up in a syringe. And this little filter on the end of the syringe is going to harbor the bacteria and biofilm that are in your water that you're testing. We're then going to rinse that little tiny filter with a saline solution. And then we're going to mix that mixture with what's in the little pink vial, which is what are called gold nano silver particles. So I'm really excited for you to see this so that you can feel like I can easily do that in my practice. So let's go to the video here.
Collect 20 milliliters from the water source to be tested in a clean container. Attach the filter tip to the syringe. Slowly pull back plunger and draw 10 milliliters of water sample into the syringe. Do not draw the full 20 milliliters of sample water. After drawing 10 milliliters, pull filter tip out of water sample and then pull plunger back, filling syringe completely with air. This step is essential to ensure accurate results. Remove filter tip from syringe and empty syringe by slowly pressing down on plunger. Discard this water. The filter tip contains the water sample to be tested. Remove the blue cap on the saline solution vial. Reattach filter tip to syringe and place the filter tip into the saline solution. Pull back the syringe plunger and draw in saline solution. Then, push the plunger up and down 3 times to ensure the saline has been mixed with the sample water droplets inside the syringe. Pro tip: the key during this step is pulling and pressing the syringe plunger slowly with light pressure back and forth. You should feel a little pressure while doing this step. Make sure the syringe has been completely emptied into the vial. Remove the cap of the test vial with the pink liquid. Place cap face up so inside of cap does not contact any surface. Empty all of the mixed saline solution into the test vial. Do not touch inside of the test vial. This could contaminate the sample. Recap test vial and write date and water source location. Let test vial sit at room temperature. Wait 15 minutes. Then, compare color of the test vial with this chart. Pink means the test found less than 500 CFU per milliliter, and you have clean water. Purple means the test found contaminates between 500 and 2,000 CFU per milliliter. And clear water shows the test found over 2,000 CFU per milliliter, and your water is highly contaminated.
So my water, when it went clear, was highly contaminated, and I shocked and retested until it was pink. So let me tell you a little bit about Clear Confirm. You notice on the video that it is a 15-minute test, which is really exciting because we want to get back to work, right? So this is a company that does a lot of testing of water across a lot of different industries, and they have made us one in particular for dentistry. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. So it's really fast, and you can see in the video, easy to use, and it's highly accurate. I'll show you some of the data here momentarily. So as mentioned, it's that 15 minutes. Obviously it takes a little bit of time to do the procedure, but as I've done it more and more, I get quicker at the actual procedure, and then within 15 minutes I'm getting my results, which is really nice because I don't have time to have my unit out of service. For example, if I sent it to a lab, I got my lab results back, and then I'd have to not use my mobile equipment until I would see some positive results. So this fast information is very important to us in dentistry. So let's look at the different type of tests that are out there and available. So you can see that this table below shows the different test types, and it also shows like how long it takes to get the results. So you can see that the blue area here are our lab results where we're sending them off to a lab. Sometimes we have to take our water sample and package it in ice and mail it. And you can imagine maybe sometimes we might not have accurate results if we're waiting a long period of time, and depending on if we pack things right. It's always really important to follow the directions of testing to a T. Then you can also see in the pink area here that these ones are done in the office, and the results are a little bit quicker as well. So a quick turnaround time obviously means that we can continue to use our operatories and avoid downtimes and closures. Of course, avoid liabilities as well, and then protect our health. Myself as a clinician, I want to make sure that I'm always practicing safely for my patients, so protecting yourself as well. So then let's talk about what some of the tests, like how they report. Like what am I going to be, like what information am I actually going to get from these? So you can see that some of them will give you like a CFU count. So they'll be like there's 200 CFUs in, of bacteria in your test that you sent to us. Some of them, like the in-office tests, are not going to give you an exact like number in there. They're going to tell you how much bacteria is in your water lines based on some type of visual. So for example, the Clear Confirm, it's going to change different colors, and that's how you're going to know if your water is contaminated or not. There's others where you might have to count the CFUs on the little maybe dipstick, and there's others that have like a little test strip that says like pass or fail. So there's a lot of different types of ways to confirm what type of bacteria we're actually seeing, or not what type, but how much bacteria is in our sample. So this is highly accurate. So let me tell you a little bit about how it works. So it uses what's called a functional gold nanoparticle suspension, which is pretty interesting. We're doing a lot of nano in dentistry these days, right? And how that works is we have rapid cell wall recognition technology. And that, what happens there is as those gold nanoparticles attach to the bacteria in your sample, that solution will then change color. So the pink is like there's a bunch of those gold nanosilver particles in there. And then as it finds bacteria more and more and more, it will change color over time dependent on how much bacteria is in the solution. So if we can go to the upper right image here where it shows clean pink water, you can see here the only nanoparticles are present. There's no contamination of bacteria in there because it's pink. We start pink and we want it to stay pink. You can see kind of on the lower left image where it shows purple, there is an aggregation of nanoparticles within the bacterial cell walls, and so it starts to change that color. But on the bottom right image, you can see if it's highly contaminated, all of the nanoparticles are going to be used up by the bacteria, so we will see no color change or a clear color change. So when it's clear, we are not in the clear. So keep that in mind. That's how I remember it. Let's next talk about some of the culturing methods and nanotechnology. So when we culture our bacteria, which means, if you think back to microbiology, we all had to take that right in dentistry. They put bacteria on a little petri dish and they see what grows. And so when we send off these water samples, that's what they're doing. The challenge with this is that not all bacteria are attracted to the same food or the same medium. They don't all grow at the same rates. And so we might have some underestimations of what we might see with our CFUs and our bacterial counts. Our clear confirm nanoparticles, they work like antibodies, if you think of that in the body. They don't wait for the bacteria to be attracted to them. Instead, in that medium, once the bacteria is entered into that nanosilver solution, they actively seek out and search for bacterial cells. And once the bacteria has been detected, then that nanoparticle is going to attach itself to the bacterial cell wall. And that is how we get those accurate results in our CFU counts. Let's next look at some of the data that we have on this material. So the question always is which one is most accurate, right? I want to be safe for my patients, safe for myself. Like, what is what's like the most accurate one that I should be using? So this just reviews the lab tests compared to Clear Confirm, and it resulted here that the test results were consistent with the results that were obtained through labs. So we can be confident that this is going, even though it's a shorter amount of time, we're not sending it off to a lab, that it is just as accurate as a lab-like test. I think that was my biggest question when I started, was like, which one's comparably accurate and quick at the same time? This was another interesting study. They looked at the different bacterias that were in our air water syringe, tap water, things like that. And I have a little pink circle on this top one. This is a Cavitron. And in this particular sample that was provided, they detected 152 species, which is quite a few more. As you can see, the other ones have 76, 82, or 11. That's because our Cavitron and Power Scalers, the water flows through those a lot slower. And when it is not moving quickly and able to disrupt those biofilms, then we get more biofilms. I'll never forget the first practice that I ever worked in. I started, and about 2 months in, my piezo is what it was, stopped working. So we'd called the technician in to come and fix it, and he pulled off the tubing and he kind of squeezed it and squirted this big, huge tube full of this worm-like material into the garbage can. He said, "This is biofilm. This is why you should be flushing your lines every day and between patients." And I was flushing my lines at the beginning of the day, 30 seconds between patients, but maybe the person who was there before me had not been doing it. They definitely had not been testing or shocking the water lines. I never had done that in that practice. And so it reminded me, this is a very important thing. I just have that visual of that worm coming out of my tubing. Absolutely gross. So this test actually goes into showing that if we take a sample and we wait on that sample and have it shipped, sometimes that sample can become compromised. Some of the materials might die off and might not be able to grow on the plate medium. So if there is a length of time between testing, we might not have the most accurate counts. So this is the counts in the sample tested in this particular case after 24 hours had decreased significantly. In some cases, even 90%, it wasn't detecting the biofilm in the area. So same day testing in the setting that you're working in and with room temperatures are a really great way to test your water. So with these case study findings, they found that not all bacteria grow at the same rates. So sometimes they'll test them with low temperatures, but they'll take a long time to incubate them. They might test them with high temperatures and then for a shorter period of time, but maybe they don't identify the slower growing bacteria. So it's really hard to maybe know like what my actual number of bacteria is. They also found through these case studies that the results from the lab tests also depend on what the bacteria are growing in, potential biocides, potential waterborne nutrients is. And then they also, found that maybe lab tests underestimate that true count of how much actual bacteria is in there. As we ship the samples, we have to make sure we package things right. We might need ice. Does the ice melt before it actually arrives? So that can be a little bit tricky with some of those lab findings. So in office, as Dr. Rowling mentioned, she really likes those in-office tests because they're so quick and accurate. So easy to use, a few simple steps as you saw in the video. And then this does not require any refrigeration with the Clear Confirm test, which is helpful. And she talked about all the different types of bacteria that are in our water lines. I'm sure that there's even more that we know of, but some of the more virulent ones that this Clear Confirm test detects, you can see her on the screen, so we can know that all of those more serious ones that can cause those secondary infections, it will look for and find and help give us information on that material and that data that is so important. So I saw a lot of questions earlier on when do we test and what are some of the directions here. So always, as Dr. Rowling said, read your manufacturer's instructions. When I got that new to me mobile unit, ordered the instructions, looked them up online, and dived into what am I supposed to be doing with my individual units. Sometimes they don't come with instructions though. You might not have those. So if there are no instructions, you can definitely follow the test that you're using, like for example here, the Clear Confirm recommendations. And the recommendations that they have are to check each water source. So for example, if you have 4 water lines in your operatory, maybe you have an air water for the assistant side, an air water for the clinician side, and maybe you have a handpiece line, and maybe you have a Cavitron or power scaler of some sort, you should test all of those lines. And some people do this a little bit differently. Some will test them individually because it is nice to know which one failed. Okay, we're treating them all, of course, but it's like which one failed, which one do I need to monitor a little bit more, maybe that Cavitron one, so that you can make sure that that one that's the culprit is testing well. Some will take a pooled sample from all of those and they'll test like all of those in one, but then you really just don't know which one failed. So you can kind of start in whatever order you would like, individual lines, or you can maybe do some type of pooled type of testing. So be sure to read those directions and go from there. You also maybe would want to test one, as she mentioned, maybe there's one that's like closer to the heater, and maybe that one builds up a little bit more biofilm, so you can treat just that one versus like all the ones that might have already passed. Okay, when do you obtain your sample? So water testing should be done at the beginning of the day after you've flushed your line for 2 minutes. Then you're going to take your water sample. And then how often should we be testing, as it talks about in these directions here, is that first test your lines, and then if you fail, then you're going to shock based on the recommendations of your manufacturer or the cleaner that you're using, and then you're going to retest until they pass. From there, if they pass, then you can test monthly, as she mentioned, that recommendation by ADS, until you get 2 consecutive positive or negative tests. And then you could move towards maybe testing quarterly. And it's recommended that you make sure that one of those quarterly tests is done during maybe some of the more warmer months of the year, because as your offices heat up, that's when bacteria and those biofilms are really going to build up a little bit more in the lines. So testing frequency may also be set by your regulatory guidance. So really important that you look up what's going to be preferred in your state or required in your state. And then you also want to test units that you may not even be using as often. Sometimes those might be a little bit worse if we're letting them sit. So keep that in mind on testing. You're setting up your office protocols. And as she mentioned, it's very important to monitor. Dr. Rowling keeps hers for life. I'm keeping mine for life as well. Might as well have the documentation to be able to identify when I did these things. And then, whatever monitoring system that you have, this one is provided by Clear Confirm. There might be some online potentially. You might have an office document that you input them digitally as well. You could do that. But you can see here that it just talks about the different quarters, what are the different sources, what are the dates that also we are monitoring our water lines. There was an interesting study out of Ohio State University that showed that 78% of the aerosols come directly from our procedural water and our water lines. And mostly, it showed in this study, 0% comes from the patient. And this is what we as clinicians are breathing in all day long, as well as our patients when they come in. So a reminder that water testing, water treating is obviously for our patients, but it's also for your safety as well, as Dr. Rowling had mentioned. So if we're not healthy, we can't then treat our patients. So this is really important. With that, I would love for you to try some of this Clear Confirm in your practice. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to a website where you can input some information to get a free sample for your practice. And the nice thing about Clear Confirm as well is that it has similar pricing as all of the other tests that are out there. It's not like extreme prices by any means, but it's about the standard market pricing that you're going to see with other tests. So I'm going to leave this on the screen for a moment, and I'm going to come back here and we can maybe do some Q&A, Dr. Rowland, if we'd like to, as people are getting that QR code scanned. If we had any questions, we could do that.
So we noted, I just spoke with Patrick actually, that the QR code here is taking us to a link that does not want to cooperate.
Oh, darn
so,
it. Okay.
Yep. So they, everybody that's here, we want you to get your free sample. So I've asked them to send me the link, and I'll make sure that it gets sent out to everybody who's attended today. I want to make sure that, it says this page is no longer active. Bummer.
Oh.
So, we'll make sure we get it to everyone. You all will have it by the end of the day. And if not, reach out to us and we'll make sure that you do have it if it goes to your spam or something like that. Let's see what questions there are, Shelley, here. There's somebody asking about another test, Fast Check 15. I'm not sure if you have any information about that. I do not.
Yeah, it is a test stick that has a line, almost like a pregnancy line that tells you if you passed or failed. So
okay,
it's something like that. It's a quick one as well. And some offices are using, we'll do a lab one once a year, but then in between we might do some quicker type of testing. So you can, with your office, decide what's going to be best for you. I know that there's a lot of options and it's like, which one do I choose? But definitely choose one that is quick, like the Clear Confirm.
How much log reduction does this test for? Do we have that in any the data that we've received?
Yeah, I do not know that off the top of my head, but if you email me at care@Shelley.Dental, which is on the screen there, I would love to answer that and get that information for you.
That will be good to know. Let's see here. Thank you. Any products that we recommend for shocking? I always say start with your instructions for use and protect your warranty as well. I don't have a special one. I just start with what the manufacturer would like us to use.
Yeah. And
Anything you'd like to add, Shelley?
yeah, my manufacturer says to shock weekly with bleach and water
Bleach
mixture.
solution.
Yeah, but after like to get it kind of up to par, I used like an ADX one that was like a hydrogen peroxide.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, as she said, if that's not allowed to be used in your lines, you have to check, because I don't want to say that out loud and then you use it and you're like, hey, Shelley told me this. This is very important that you don't want
Right.
to you don't want to avoid any of those manufacturer warranties. So you could also email them. If it doesn't say it, you feel free to email them. Email your manufacturer and be like, which ones can I use if it's a little bit unclear.
Are you you're talking about your mobile equipment that you're using, the bleach solution? Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I use with ours. But again, it might be a little different if you're in a brick and mortar situation. But yeah, I had units that were bleached and the inside of the vehicles were bleached and everything else. So for every line in your practice, you do have to test. You can't just take sample lines, because you might have lines that have biofilm in them that, form that biofilm independently of the other lines. So you do want to test all of your lines. So if you have 10 operatories or 10 chairs, and you have 4 lines per operatory, you're looking at testing 40 tests, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and some lines we might not think to test, but anything that there could potentially be biofilm in that might be entering into the air or your patient's mouth, those are ones that you're wanting to test as well. Sometimes we might not test like our slow speed handpieces as often, but if you can like toggle those over, sometimes like in some units you can be like, oh, I can sometimes put water through this if I needed. You'll still want to test those lines too.
Okay. I'm just scrolling up to see if there are any questions that we might have missed.
Something I was reading the other day that was interesting too, Dr. Rowling, while you're looking at that, was replacing our water bottles often. Check with your manufacturer on replacing those, because as you mentioned, like the bacteria can embed even in those water bottles, and they can kind of erode over time. So we might think, my water bottle looks good, but follow the recommendations on how often that needs to be replaced as well.
Right. And your water lines too. I mean, sometimes if you're getting units that are just persistently failing, it might just be time to just change the water line as well. And then you want to start over, even though you've changed the line, you want to start with a base protocol. And that happens. You can't take it personally, because biofilm is in charge. I think we have all the questions. Any more questions for Shelley or myself? And again, our apologies for the sample. We have contacted the manufacturer. They're correcting it, but we'll make sure that every one of you has the opportunity to order that. And I think you're really going to like it, because you do have the 15-minute response, and then you'll know that your water is safe to put back into service, just like your instruments when you're testing your autoclaves. You don't want to wait until laboratory results came back and find out that, whoops, my water in this one unit is not up to speed, and I've been using it for a week. Shelley, anything you'd like to say before we tell everyone to have a great weekend?
Yeah, I would just say thank you for being here, and as I've learned more and we do better, we start today and do a little bit better, implement it into your practice, set up some protocols for it, and it's just a very important thing to be doing.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for being here. I want to thank Hager Worldwide and their nuclear confirmed test here. So please be sure to check in with us if you don't receive that link to be able to claim your free test. Send off any questions you have to Shelley. She'll be the one that can answer those technology questions for you. And with that, we'll tell you have a great weekend. Bye now. I'll also put the code up here for you all for one more time in case you didn't have a chance to